Hey everyone, it's Zach Beck. It is difficult to stay on top of all the news coming out of Washington, D.C. right now, especially when it comes to relief measures and potentially a second stimulus check. And that is because we have an upcoming presidential election that is due to be one of the most unusual in history. And because of that, we're finding pressure is mounting on both sides of the aisle to come to an agreement to actually help Americans in this time of need. So what I want to do in this video is talk about the possibility of a second stimulus check, how much it actually would be, who would qualify for that, and also if you do receive it, what you should do with those finances in order for you to achieve your long-term goals. So let's jump into it right now. The first thing to be aware of as it relates to this particular issue is that a second stimulus check has not been approved yet, and it is not a foregone conclusion. Although there is strong bipartisan support for a second measure that would actually provide economic relief to those in need right now, it is tied up in a bitter partisan battle as it relates to the overarching stimulus package that has been proposed by both the Republicans and the Democrats. Furthermore, the president has hinted that he would actually issue an executive order to provide a second stimulus measure, but that has not been developed fully as of yet. And when we're looking at the situation, it is important to note that currently, United States Department of Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin has specifically said that he is open to negotiate with Nancy Pelosi, who is the House Speaker, to try and come to some sort of conclusion that would actually provide economic relief. But obviously there are bitter differences between both sides that are understandable. And then when you throw on top of that not just a presidential election, but every member of the House of Representatives has to be up for election, and then select senators are up for re-election as well, the pressure is mounting on both sides trying to figure out a way forward. But I believe it's very important for us to understand that a second stimulus check has not been approved yet. The second thing to be aware of as it relates to this particular issue is that the IRS might be able to send economic payments faster than they did the first round. And what you found the first time is that most people receive their payments between 2 to 2.5 weeks. For myself personally, I haven't even received my first one yet. So what we're finding is that there's this great stipulation between everyone as to when you would actually receive it, and if you do, what you should do with it. But most importantly to note, Steven Mnuchin once again said that he could get out about 50 million economic stimulus relief measures or stimulus checks to those very quickly. Basically, he says within 1 week of a bill being signed into law. So hopefully, if a second stimulus measure is approved, it will come to you rather quickly, especially if you actually do direct deposit when it comes to filing your taxes. The third thing to be aware of as it relates to this issue is that qualifications for receiving this could actually change. And what we found the first time is they tried to cast the widest net possible to make sure people could find some sort of economic relief by receiving those $1,200 checks a number of months ago. But what we're finding now is that the second round, we're looking at potentially some different qualifications. And what is going to be most important is your adjusted gross income. And this is what it comes down to when you're actually filing your taxes on an annual basis. Your AGI will really play a significant role as to determining whether or not you qualify for a second stimulus check. In addition, if you are not required to file for taxes because of your current economic status, you actually most likely will become eligible for a second stimulus measure because you might be on a lower tier of economic insecurity, and therefore the government does want to provide some of that security to you right now. When the first measure was passed, children under the age of 16 counted as $500 towards an economic relief, but they didn't receive those payments directly. That went to their parents because they were claiming those children as dependents for obvious tax reasons. So for that particular case, that might change as well when it comes to this second round. On that note, you can already estimate the size of your stimulus check, especially if you're still waiting to receive your first payment. So what I'll do in this video is I'll put a link in the description for you to check out how you could actually calculate how much money you are owed pertaining to your first stimulus check and potentially be able to assess what that might look like for your second stimulus check. You might be asking yourself, how would this additional stimulus money actually arrive? And there are 3 different vehicles the IRS will use. First will be a direct deposit, and over 75% of the first round went by direct deposit. That was our 120 million Americans who received their payments that way. Obviously, it's the most efficient method for the IRS to do so because it's all done digitally. Now, secondly, if you're receiving a physical check, 22% of people, or 35 million, actually would receive that. And thirdly, you would find that 3% actually use what's called a prepaid debit debit card, and that's how the IRS can issue it as well. Basically 4 million people receive that. So when you're looking at your approach specifically, it really depends upon how you filed your taxes last year. If you filed by paper and only asked for a paper check to be returned, then you're going to receive that. If you received direct deposit when it comes to your overall return from a refund from the IRS, then you should expect to receive this particular check in the same manner. One of the most important things to be aware of is that if and when this actually does come to fruition, you'll really want to read the fine print, because legislation can be very complicated. In the fine print, you'll have lobbyists who are trying to get certain things passed, and it might directly affect you. So what I would encourage you to do is that don't make all of your plans just based off of the headlines you see on TV or read on your news feed. Take your time, maybe read a bill or measure yourself and see what it means for your finances. So take your time, because like I said before, this is not a foregone conclusion. Both sides of the aisle have very vested interests in passing something, but you'll find they come from very different perspectives, and that's where you're always going to see partisanship generally does not lead to good public policy. So take your time, read whatever does get passed. If and when it does, I will make sure to create a video that dives into those details to help you and make sure that you're well informed. But also, when you're looking at the grander picture here, kind of going to a 30,000 foot view, the most important thing is that something gets done, because many millions of Americans are currently facing very challenging situations from a financial perspective. People have been pushed to the edge and they're finding themselves on the economic brink, not being able to pay for rent, for their mortgage, for food, for shelter, all those different things. So my encouragement to you is that contact your elected representatives, contact your congressional representative, your senator, and even your president or your preferred presidential candidate to try and encourage them to actually move forward and do something. Obviously, the presidential candidate who's running cannot do anything right now, but he should, if he's elected, do something. And if the same president gets reelected, he should do something. But ultimately, you and this particular democracy that we live in do have a lot of authority and power to encourage your elected representatives to actually act and do things on your behalf. So I'll do is I'll put a link in the description for you to be able to find your elected representative so you can email them directly. As someone who's worked in government, I understand the power of public input. When the public says something, I have seen elected officials, myself included, respond much more quickly than just doing something on their own volition. So if you take the time, flood their inbox with emails, make sure you tell them exactly how you feel, do so in a manner where it pushes them in the right direction, but just try and be kind as you can about it, but forceful at the same time. I believe that can actually prompt individuals to make decisions on your behalf. So my encouragement is to do everything you can to be an active participant in this democracy, because ultimately you need to benefit from it, because right now we're facing such challenging times. With all that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. If you wouldn't mind, please like the video for the YouTube algorithm. That would really help the channel out and push this video to other people who might need to hear it. In addition, if you wouldn't mind, please comment down below. I'd love to interact with you, get to know you, answer any questions on your behalf, and do any research for you as well. And if you do like to comment, in addition to that, please subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to myself personally, as I do everything I can to create positive content that makes an impact in your life that can encourage you and myself to lead lives of meaning and purpose, all while maintaining balance and moderation. And if you do subscribe to the channel, please tap the notification bell. That will notify you every time I post a video, which I do on a weekly basis. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. I look forward to talking to you next time. Have a great day.